My name's Dan Johnson. I am currently the executive director of the Tax Revolution Institute. And I want to start briefly of my story getting engaged in politics. I actually got engaged on this issue called the NDAA. Is anyone in here familiar with that? Okay, several of you. So I saw this indefinite detention law passed by the US Senate. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not sure if there's anything I can do about it, but I'm going to go on Twitter and find out. And I managed to connect with an attorney who wrote a resolution that I brought to my city council. We brought about 32 young people with us to city council. Now, we hear a lot as young people about, you need to get engaged in politics. You need to do something. Well, mostly that do something means I want you to hang signs for me and I want you to go and knock on doors and just don't tell me what to do. Just kind of work for my campaign and then go home. And I realized this when I went to city council. We packed it. It was a really small city council. I'm not going to have this on the stand. This is ridiculous. It was a really small city council. And we filled the entire city council room. There was like 35 of us. We had Occupy Bowling Green there. We had the Bowling Green Young Republicans, and we had the Bowling Green Young Americans for Liberty. And so we all packed this room, and we're waiting patiently for the mayor to just sign our resolution saying, of course, no one will be detained by the military without charge or trial in this city. Could you think of an easier resolution to sign? Just, no, of course, that'll never happen. Well, they didn't sign it. They didn't do anything with it. And actually, I got an email. It wasn't even sent to me. It was sent to the chair of city council by the mayor, and it said, and I still remember this was 4 years ago on February 21st. I still remember this email, and it said, and I quote, "These students should have taken Government 160. They don't know the inner workings of our national government, and it's up to us in some respects to educate them. Go back to basic government class, little boys and girls. This is real boys politics." And, you know, they talk about the Robert Frost moment where you take the road less traveled by, and it made all the difference. Well, I had a choice at that point. I only wanted to do this for 3 months. I really was not wanting to do politics until after I graduated, got my degree, my $30,000 piece of paper, and actually went and ran for city council or some other public office. And I found that I needed to prove my mayor wrong, actually, and decided to start and launch Panda nationwide. In short order, because I only have an hour, in short order, we became the largest organization in the nation focusing on and fighting indefinite detention. We passed laws in the capital of New York, we passed laws in Idaho, we passed laws in Massachusetts saying, no, the military cannot come in and use the laws of war on our own citizens. We are not a battlefield. The second is Solutions Institute. So I started an activist training center. I'm still president of the board there. We took these tools, we took these keys. I'll talk about some of the successes we had through the Solutions Institute, and now I'm on to the tax revolution. So in order to get engaged in politics, you have to have the right mindset. I wasted basically 1.5 years of my life trying to talk to politicians like they were human beings. And so it would kind of, my average day would kind of look like this. I would get up at stupid 30 in the morning and go to class. And I would be sitting in class and I'd watch my teacher talk about how great the Federal Emergency Management Agency is and how great government did in Katrina and et cetera, et cetera. And I would watch her turn the other way and I'd dash out of class and take a phone call from a state rep and talk to them about how bad the NDAA was and why they needed to do something about it. And I did that for basically 1.5 years with pretty much no success. And in September of 2013, we sat down, or September 2012, we sat down and I went to a conference in San Diego called Libertopia. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that conference, but a gathering of libertarians in the San Diego area. And I met a guy by the name of Ernest Hancock. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with Ernest Hancock. But he runs Freedom's Phoenix radio. And I was telling him about Panda and how we had introduced or pushed about 23 pieces of state legislation in 2012, and it was September, and we'd had only one even come close. It was a 32-33 vote on the Colorado House floor. We lost by 1 vote. And I was telling him all this, and he listens patiently for 10 minutes, and then he kind of goes, so let me get this straight. You're building a big collective to take on their collective, and collectively you're going to defeat collectivism? And I remember thinking, wow, I'm going to need some aloe vera for that burn. But he was right. we had built our organization the wrong way, and we had attempted to reason and work with politicians instead of realizing that they just speak a different language. So I want to talk about 3 paradigm shifts here. One, from access to power. If you're writing things down, these are the 3 to write down. From access to power, from English to pressure, and from understanding to fear. And then finally, the swarm, or how you get other people, volunteers, to get involved with you and to stay involved with you no matter what your issue. So I want you to remember one specific word that I'll repeat several times throughout this presentation. This word is called reputation. It is the only thing that matters in electoral politics, is that one word, reputation. Once you understand that reputation is the most important factor in politics, you will literally have no problem engaging with and pushing back on your politicians trying to infringe on your liberty. Now people will ask, well, why paradigm shifts? If you don't know where you're going, you really have no idea. Any road will get you there, so to speak. You need to understand the mindset of politics and how politicians think if you're going to influence them in any way to get them off of your liberty, to get them off of your freedom. So let's talk about a few things that don't work. Has anybody ever been to a protest? Couple of you, okay. Anybody ever spoken with their representative? Sent a letter to their representative? Okay. So you sent a letter to your representative, what'd you get back? Nothing? Not even a form letter? Somebody got a form letter. All right. Anybody got more than a form letter? Protesting the streets has a little caveat. It does work for raising awareness if nobody knows your issue. If nobody's ever heard of it, if nobody has ever come across this issue, it does work to raise awareness. But you look at, there's a little bit of a pattern here, and it's kind of in quotes, maybe representatives. Now you could do all these, but all these are just practice. So really what doesn't work is engaging with your representatives in any way. What doesn't work is treating politicians like normal people. That's really what doesn't work. And we come back to that word, reputation. So why don't we treat politicians like normal people? Well, they're in a bit of a different system than normal people. If you, for example, hire someone to mow your lawn, and you're dissatisfied with the services they're giving you in the same way that you might be dissatisfied with the roads, or you might be dissatisfied with the police. If you're dissatisfied with the services they give you, you, as the minority, as one person, can pull your money and immediately punish them for giving you bad service. And vice versa. If you're happy with the service they're giving you, you can give them more money to reward them for that service and to get more of that service. Yet politics doesn't work that way. In order to change the job status of a politician, and in order to affect them, you have to get 50% of the voting population plus 1 to back you. So you, as a minority, as the minority of 1, cannot punish a politician directly by yourself, nor, to a certain extent, can you really reward them. Politics is massively different than the rest of the economic sphere simply because you have to get more people to have any type of cause and effect, any type of back and forth. And this is why the reputation is so important. So how do you get that 50% plus 1? And is it even 50% plus 1? We'll cover that. So first of all, we have shift 1, access to power. There are 2 types of major political ideas in the grassroots movements. Number 1 is access. This is how a lot of people start. Access looks like this. You call your politician. He looks at his phone. Oh, it's John. John, how are you? Oh my God, it's great to hear from you. Let's take our kids out to a picnic and let's go play golf together. That's access politics. Access politics can be gained by campaigning for a politician. It can be gained by defending them in public. It can be gained by hanging out with them. It can be gained by every other area except you give up one thing. You can't challenge the status quo because that's what got you there. That's access politics. Now, access politics will give you the banquets, the press conferences, and you'll get to meet your political heroes. You'll see people go from grassroots activists to starstruck, and all of a sudden they're campaigning for John McCain, okay? This is access politics. This is how this works. You could also choose power politics. Power politics looks like this. You call your politician up. Oh, it's John. I really don't want to talk to John. Hi, John, what do you want? And then he votes the way you want him to vote on your legislation. In power politics, you don't make friends with your politician. You don't try to defend them as, oh, well, they're just the best of everybody out there on the Hill. They're just the best of everybody in my city council. They're the lesser of 2 or 10 or 25 evils. You don't do that. You put your blood, your sweat, and your tears into getting that 50% plus one that makes sure that you can punish a politician who infringes on your liberty. So you have to decide right now, do you want access or do you want power? Now, I want you to guess, who said this quote? The thing is, if Bernie Sanders is really grassroots, and he's really there for the people, then he would make room for grassroots movements and not say to the grassroots movements, you need to settle for what I give you. Who said that? Let's have some guesses. Nope. Who else? Did I lose the mic? Or did it just get quieter? Okay, anyway, who else? Hillary, who else? Not Donald Trump. Not Ron Paul. Very good. This is Black Lives Matter activist Marissa Johnson confronting Bernie Sanders on stage, and that's her on MSNBC. That's her quote from MSNBC. Now, most people said to Marissa once she got done interrupting Bernie Sanders, which, by the way, most Bernie Sanders fans hated. You look at the video on YouTube, it has 3,100 dislikes and like 400 likes. They hated this action because they said, oh, well, the Republicans are so much worse. Oh, well, you should have gone after Jeb Bush. You should have confronted Donald Trump. You should have said they should care about you. What she understands is this. Her audience, the people who support the Black Lives Matter movements, are not Jeb Bush fans. They're not Donald Trump fans. They're Bernie Sanders fans. Her 50% plus one is not in Jeb's camp or Donald Trump's camp. It's in Bernie Sanders' camp. She understands that instead of hanging out with Bernie Sanders, instead of talking to Bernie Sanders, which she did for 3 months, mind you, the Black Lives Matter movement met with and tried to work with Bernie Sanders for 3 months before this, between Netroots Nation and between this confrontation. And they eventually said, we're not going to settle for access. We're not going to settle for a politician who just tells us what we want to hear. We're only going to work with someone who has concrete policy initiatives. And that's why they interrupted Bernie Sanders. You know what? What did it get them? They scored weeks of airtime on their issues. Let's see. It may have costed them $20 to get to the event on public transportation. They had 3 people interrupt it. And those 3 people scored more airtime on issues in the news than most liberty organizations get in a couple years. Because they understand the principle, go after the people, the candidates who require support from people who like you, who require support from people who agree with you. They got him in the Clinton camp to release a racial justice platform within days after they interrupted him. They got him to talk about racial justice in front of 28,000 people in Portland. They were rough, they were impolite, and they were annoying, and they probably could have helped with their tactics a little bit in explaining the history of what they did. I'm not going to say they were perfect in their tactics in interrupting him. However, they refused to settle for access. They refused to settle for, oh, he's telling us what he wants to hear. He's meeting with us in private. He's talking to us about how much he cares about Black Lives Matter and what he'll do when he gets elected. They instead confronted him and used power politics to make sure that he took the position that they wanted him to take. Give you the reason why that worked is simple. Politicians don't understand English. They only understand pressure. That's the only thing a politician cares about, is pressure. Now, most humans react to pressure. They really do. We hear about peer pressure in the schools, right? We even hear about adult peer pressure. We hear about peer pressure in keeping up with the Joneses. We hear about peer pressure in all areas. Most humans are affected by their peers. Most humans are affected by peer pressure. However, politicians are exclusively affected by peer pressure. Why? If you go to your butcher shop downtown, or actually a great example would be, you know the soup Nazi from Seinfeld? Anybody? Okay. Everybody hates the soup Nazi. Everybody hates him as a person, yet he has really, really, really good soup. So they'll show up and they'll endure everything he puts them through in line just to get that soup. Politicians don't have that soup. They sell nothing but themselves. That's the only thing a politician has to sell. What do you hear about people who vote for politicians? Oh, I know his name. Oh, he sounds like a good person. Oh, he shook my hand. Oh, he cares for me. Donald Trump, oh, he's a businessman. Bernie Sanders, oh, he cares about everybody. It's not about their policies. Only policy wonks focus on that. It's about them as a person. That's why the easiest way to take down a politician is to report on their sex scandal. Did that have anything to do with their policies? No. Yet their reputation as a person was called into question. And that's why it works. You want to be effective, you speak that language. Would you go to China or would you go to Asia and say, all right, now I'm here, now I'm in Thailand. You all need to speak English. You are going to listen to me and you're going to speak English. No one would do that. That's stupid. However, well, politicians would do that, but most of us wouldn't do that. We understand that pressure is the way that politics works. I'll give you a case study. Jason Casella, a good friend of mine, he's crazy. He moves to Idaho just to fight the NDAA because he believes it'd be easier than in Southern California. So he moves to Idaho, he doesn't know anybody. He starts networking, goes to a city council meeting, meets a local Tea Party group. He starts talking to them about pressure. He starts talking to them about how to engage their politicians, how to show up and force their politicians to vote on what they want. So what he starts doing is, at the first meeting he brings up the NDAA, there's 2 people there. 2 people in the audience. There's more councilmen than there are people. But 2 weeks later, at the next meeting, there are 5 people in the audience. And a few weeks later, at the next meeting, there are 10 people in the audience. And a few weeks later, at the next meeting, there are 40 people in the audience. By that meeting, what is the politician thinking? I'd better get ahead of this because I want to be on the side of the 51%. They always want to be on the side of the 51%. And that movement grew and grew, and by the time he got 40 people there, he demanded that by the end of the year, they pass this resolution. So they decided to put it on the agenda, and the next meeting, he had 85 people there. In a town of 3,500, 85 people is basically the entire electorate. At 85 people there, and the council passed the resolution. Because they had to, because the council room was full of their voters. And they believed, whether we did or not, they believed we had the 51%. That's how pressure works. After he did that, what happened? Well, anyone familiar with sustainable development or Agenda 21 in here at all? A couple of you, okay. His town had gotten a smart growth grant. And the smart growth grant was about $172,000. They had already said, we want to accept it. And he's sitting in the council meeting and hears smart growth. And he goes, hey guys, hold on. I gotta go, but can we postpone this for a couple weeks? Because I can't be here right now. Now, how many of you, if you went to your city council meeting, you hear something bad and you go, hey guys, can you postpone all of this? I literally gotta go. That they would stop. But they stopped because they know the type of pressure he can bring. And they not only stopped, they appointed him to an advisory board. And they said, you tell us how to do this. You tell us what's wrong with this. He got about 30 or 40 people in on the Agenda 21 issue. They reversed and returned the grant. Next, a councilman who really just did not get the picture by this point. He introduced a gun control ordinance that said in the council chambers, only councilmen can carry. Some people are rather stubborn. That gun control ordinance was defeated. He just went through a recall election. He barely survived. Political rap sheet. How many of you have been asked for endorsement by a politician before they ran for office? One or two. He got asked for an endorsement by the mayor, the gubernatorial candidate, and the attorney general candidate. The attorney general candidate, actually, he said he had no balls in front of a room of like 300 people after he was asked for an endorsement. Which is, again, pressure politics, power politics versus access politics. You never let them slide. But another interesting, fun thing was after Emmett defeated the NDAA, then you go to the county. The county was Gem County. And this commissioner, Carlos Bilbao, also didn't get the hint. And there were 80 people in this county meeting, including counselors from Emmett. How many of you got your city council people to show up at a different government to lobby for you? Huh. Okay. There were 80 people in this room. The commissioner goes, I don't want 80 people in this room. I only want 20 people in this room. 60 of you out. Literally, that's all he says. And then he accidentally votes for our resolution. Because it was on a consent agenda. And he didn't realize that that was part of the consent agenda. So he accidentally votes for our resolution. And then he goes and says, I'm running for office, by the way. You need to support me because I voted for your resolution. Yeah, 2 weeks later, he resigned. Idaho State Senator Stephen Thane, very much the same thing. Remember this one word, reputation. It's all that matters. It's the only thing that matters. You have to destroy the reputation of your politician if you want to protect your liberty. Now, the third shift is understanding to fear. Has anyone ever tried to reason with a politician? Did that work or result in any legislation for any of you? Kind of. Okay. There's one person out of however many. You're trying to force them to learn your language when you try to reason with them. They don't understand English. Remember that. We just covered that. They don't understand English. The only thing they understand is pressure. How many voters are you going to bring against me? How many voters are you going to beat me with? Now, this guy should look somewhat familiar to you. When the people fear their government, there is tyranny. When the government, their people, there is liberty. Notice how it doesn't say when the government official sits down with you over a cup of coffee and tells you how great your issue is and how great of a constituent you are and how much he needs your vote next year. There's liberty. It says when they fear you. Now, when I start talking about fear, some people will accuse me of fighting dirty. And, oh, you're just dirty politics. Well, as long as you don't lose your integrity, and as long as your allies and enemies both know when you say something, it's the truth, whether they like it or not, then I liken it to jail guards. Our founders would say that politicians that are elected officials are jail guards who had the keys to our liberty. With every vote, they have the keys to our liberty. I didn't give it to them, but they have them. So, look at them as jail guards. Imagine the scenario. Jail guards continue to beat a prisoner. They just continue to beat on a prisoner over and over and over and over again. And then that prisoner and other prisoners start writing caricatures on the wall saying the jail guards are fat, they're ugly, they're mean. Who's in the wrong here, the prisoners or the jail guards? Who's in the wrong here, the prisoners or the jail guards? I would say the jail guards. Politeness and keeping away from someone's reputation, remember this is very key, is a tool used by the powerful to manipulate the powerless. If I know that you writing an op-ed in my local paper, calling me out for the way I treated that old lady a couple weeks ago, is going to hurt me, all I have to do is call you impolite for daring to talk about it. Understanding to fear. They must fear you. Go after your representatives. Go after the people you like, especially the people you like. Take your time keeping the people you like accountable. If you send, now for this group, if you send a letter to John McCain, I guarantee you he will not care at all. And it will not change his mind. But a letter to Rand Paul might. A letter to Justin Amash might. A letter to Thomas Massey might. And all the pressure on the inside is against them and against your liberty. So you better be providing pressure from the outside to keep them where they need to be. Defending your Constitution, defending your liberty. Call them out. What's the one word that matters in politics? What's the one word that matters in politics? This doesn't mean violence. This is a little disclaimer, by the way. Aggressive violence is immoral. In case you didn't know, non-aggression principle. It's also stupid. Anyone ever heard of a martyr? Yeah. They gave up their life for their reputation. It's really stupid to go after their life and violence. Now, I'm actually going to contradict one of my previous points about the 50%. How many of us are needed to win? Well, let's look. This is from the Foundation for Applied Conservative Leadership. It does excellent analysis on the subject. 100% is the population. Take your county, your city. 100% of all people. 70% of those are eligible to vote. We're excluding aliens, felons, and minors. 40% are registered to vote. 20% vote on election day. This is getting easier and easier as we go down this list. 7% almost always vote Republican. 7% almost always vote Democrat. What does that leave you with? 6%. 3% plus 1 is the swing vote of almost every county and city in America. And whether this is in the primary, if it's heavily Democratic or Republican, or if it's purple, it's in the general. But this, right here, 3% plus 1 is all you need in just about any community to control almost every single decision your local government makes. That's all you need. So I'm going to walk you through a scenario. It's called a resolution and a Post-it note. All right. So imagine for a moment that I am your county commissioner. I can't do Donald Trump's accent as much as I might try. You want your county to repeal the ban on jaywalking or ban on free speech at your campus, and I am your university coordinator. Imagine me as whatever elected official you generally hate at the moment. I'm totally cool with that. So there are three people, three of you. Person A, person B, person C. You write up a resolution to, let's just say, repeal the ban on jaywalking. You write up a resolution, you bring it in. And you lay the resolution on my desk. Person A comes in, lays the resolution on my desk and says, I really, 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 really want you to vote for this. It's really important to me as your constituent. How many people do I think are behind that resolution? About one. So I take the resolution and I put it in the trash. Second person comes up. They have a resolution, they have a Post-it note attached to it. And they say, I really, really, really want you to pass this resolution, and the 20 names I have on your Post-it note are people in your district, and they do too. How many people do I think support them? Roughly 20, 21, maybe 40. The third person comes in, and they bring that Post-it note, and they bring that resolution. They say, I really want you to pass this resolution, and here are 10 organizations in my community who care about this, and they're in your district. How many people do I think you have behind you? I have no idea, and it scares the daylights out of me. That's all you need. I see so many people doing this door-to-door, street-to-street thing when all they'd have to do is call up 5 organizations in their community, walk into city council with those 5 leaders, be all in agreement on a particular resolution, and it would pass like that. That's all it would take. And because so few people participate in politics in this country, this is one of your best avenues to advance liberty. That's all you need. Just a little bit. Now, surprise, surprise, you can't do this alone. However, it's easy to get people to work with you once you understand what motivates them. So you must understand 3 motivating factors. Once someone's basic needs are taken care of, these are the 3 things that motivate them. According to Dan Pink, there's a YouTube video, RSA Animate, Drive, Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. It's very good. It's about 13 minutes, explains the concept. Nonetheless, there are 3 things that mainly motivate you once your basic needs are taken care of. Number 1 is mastery. The armed forces does this extremely well. They hand out bits of tinfoil for you risking your life. They show you that you are the master at something, and they reward you for your mastery. Achievements in video games. Anybody have Xbox Live or PlayStation Network? Okay. Achievements in video games reward you for being faster at pressing buttons than other people. They reward you for your mastery. Number 2 is purpose. Doing something for a cause larger than yourselves. I'll use the example of Wikipedia. The people who put together Wikipedia got paid nothing. Yet they put together Wikipedia because they believed knowledge should be free. They believed information should be out there for people to grab. Number 3, self-direction. Has anybody ever heard of an Australian company called Atlassian Software? Okay? Atlassian Software revolutionized the software market when they reintroduced self-direction to the workplace. What they basically did is said, all right, for one day this quarter, you can work on whatever you want. We really don't care. Just show us the results at the end of the day. And they got more bug fixes, they got more problems solved, and they got more software created in that one day than almost throughout the rest of the quarter. Because they gave people self-direction. And when you own something, this is the whole principle of property rights. When you own something, you take care of it. When you own a task, when you own a position, that's when you'll do the work for that position. Also as important, this is Rick Falk-Vinya. You may not know who he is, but anybody ever heard of the Pirate Party? A few of you. Good. The Swedish Pirate Party, which started the movement, and he started, went from nothing to the largest third party in the entire world in 8 years. Outpacing the Libertarian Party, outpacing the Greens, outpacing any other third party in 8 years. Largest third party in the world. And even though they've declined since then, every major party in Europe has adopted every single platform position of that party. They have literally won. And what he said is the lesson here is no millions of cash in the world, even if you do get them, can repair the damage to your organization if you lose your value base. So before we move on, understand that the number one important thing for you in politics is your integrity. You must tell the truth. You must tell the truth to your allies, and you must tell the truth to your enemies. You have to maintain your integrity, or you are going to be part of the system that you fight. Now, that's the first principle of the swarm. People follow you because of your integrity, because of you. That's when they first get to know you. The 5 rules of the swarm are this. Number 1, every member of the swarm is a leader. A bottom-up organization doesn't work, and a top-down organization doesn't work. They both have hierarchy. Every single member of the swarm is a leader. Number 2, democracy creates losers. Every single time there's a vote, people lose. And if people lose in an organization enough, they will walk away, no matter how good they are. So what you do instead is you hand them decision rights. You say, you're a graphic, most organizations do this. We want a new logo. Let's vote on it. Let's all vote on this new logo. What a swarm does is say, you're a graphic designer. You're a brand manager. You decide the new logo. We'll give you suggestions, we'll give you feedback, but it's your decision. And you do the same with every other position. There are there are basically no votes in a swarm except for the ones you have to legally take. You're required to vote at least once by the IRS as a nonprofit every year. Your board of directors is required to vote. Other than that, if you're not legally required to take a vote, do not. 3, set a vision that will change the world, set goals that will change your week. People don't get excited about you bringing 5 people to an event. Guys, we're going to bring 5 people. Yeah, 5. Go out and talk to people. It's not happening. Set a vision that will change the world. Set a vision that will change the way people interact with each other. Set a vision that you think is impossible. Don't go to the moon. We've already been there. Go to Mars. But set a vision set goals that will change your week. We need to do this next week. Easily achievable goals that give people a sense of accomplishment. Number 4, you can manage the vision but never the message. If there are competing groups that spring up around you, partner with them. Don't crush them. Don't do what I did when I started Panda, which is I went to all these anti-NDAA organizations that were out there and said, we're really good at this, guys. We got this. And what they went is, oh, you got this, and they walked away. Is your issue as important as your organization, or is your issue more important than your organization? Your issue is more important than your organization. What you care about is change, not just growing your empire. 5, give up results to gain control. Give up control to gain results. If you run any type of organization or any type of association of people, this could be just 5 people in your hometown, and you say, you have to use this logo. You have to get my approval for this. You have to get my approval for that. All you're doing is you're making volunteers walk away. Because what happens? Oh, well, they say, I'd like to use your logo for an event. You go, okay, great. Talk to your state team leader. They talk to the state team leader. State team leader's on vacation. A week later, he comes back. He talks to you. You're out at an event. You come back later. It's 2 weeks before they get approval, and they've walked away. You give up results to gain control. You give up control to gain results. So I want to put this kind of all together a few times. Number 1, with Albany, New York. we first implemented the tools of the swarm in the capital of New York. It had been a year and a half. It's shortly after Ernest had dressed me down. And we decided to change our tactics from access to power and from hierarchical bottom up to swarm. And we were told that although there was one councilman in Albany, New York, Anton Konev, who was going to introduce our resolution, that we were going to lose by a vote of, let's see, there were 13 members on the council. We were going to lose by a vote of about 8 to 5. And we decided that we're going to put all of these tactics in place in Albany, New York. So we contacted almost every organization that was politically oriented in any way in Albany and said, hey, join us. It was Muslim rights organizations. It was the ACLU. It was Tea Parties. We contacted them all and said, hey, join this coalition. Send a letter to your city council. We launched a campaign, Take Back Albany, New York. We sent 3,000 phone calls and emails to the city of Albany, their city councilors. We had a flyer campaign, 500 flyers throughout the city. We had organizations send in letters from across the country saying, hey, the organization in California would say, hey, we are watching you. And we get to the day of the vote. We are told we're still going to lose, no matter what. We packed the entire city council room. There are over 100 people there. Bobby was there. There were over 100 people there. Several organizations spoke. But there was a budget meeting that day. So, of course, council's going, well, everybody's here for the budget meeting. They must really care about the city budget. And at one point, I asked one of our reps up there, Jesse Calhoun, to stand up and ask everybody in the audience who's in favor of this resolution, and the entire place stands up. We had a live band there. That's how much fun this was. And when everybody stood up, the co-chair of the council, who had been our opposition the entire time, his jaw dropped. After the vote, the chair of city council said, I have never seen any action in the city of Albany on any issue that was I've never seen as much action on any issue ever in the city of Albany in my time at city council. And this was a national federal law we were combating on the city level. We should have gotten more opposition than anybody. We had no base. Yet in 3 months we built it. And the final vote was 11-0. They were afraid to vote against us, because we understood how they thought, and we used that. Putting this all together, case study, Kodiak, Alaska. No political activity since 1997. That was when they got fluoride out of their water. Less than 6 months of preparation. The city decides, even though we're a small fishing island off the coast of Alaska, and we have, 3,000 people or so, we're going to go hire a guy from Seattle to draw up our zoning codes just like Seattle. So for those of you who don't know zoning, it pretty much decides anything and everything you can do with your property, you can do with your house. And usually the attendance at a zoning board meeting is about 2 tumbleweed and the zoning commission. So this new code, some of the highlights of this fun code. It would have created a new department with absolute unquestionable authority over property decisions. It would have set severe limits on fences, fishing equipment, yard maintenance, noise, and domestic animals. They would limit the number of chickens you could have. It would set a $200 fine and a 30-day limit to pay, or property would be seized. So every single day you were in violation, it was a $200 fine. And if you did not respond to that and pay that fine within 30 days, they would put a lien on your property. Now, it's a fishing community. You're a fisherman. You go out on the water for 30 days. For 31 days. You come back, your house is gone. That's how bad this code was. So we started alerting the community by sending these postcards out. Red Alert Kodiak. They explained a little bit of the code, and they included a link for someone to go see the code online and to go see what it would do to their property. We sent about 3,000 of these out. We helped Grassroots Kodiak send about 3,000 of these out. And we published this. Now, I'm really shocked at this one, because we created a satire. Essentially, we wrote a satire article. That the satire article was in support of this code. And we submitted it to the newspaper. But the newspaper had been so beaten up by Grassroots Kodiak following the pressure options before that they actually published this satire as like a real article. So this says, Kodiakans need new borough code, and Peterson highlights it's time for people to stop being so worried about their property rights and start thinking about what's best for their community. They published this. I was shocked. Okay, what happened next? 300, 1/10 of the population showed up to the zoning meeting. 450 people showed up to the next meeting. Here's pictures of the hallway. The room itself only holds like 60 people. This is the hallway outside the room. There are people standing all throughout this hallway, and there are people standing outside that door in the freezing rain. There were 69 speakers at this event, all slamming the new borough code. At the next event, they had to take over the biggest building in Kodiak, the high school auditorium. 450 people showed up. That's what it looks like. Imagine you're a politician and every single one of those people are against you right now. Little scary. They eventually got the code to come up at the second meeting, and just the day before, just to give you a little insight into some of the dirty tactics that get played in politics, a day before the meeting, the newspaper publishes a front page headline, "We win," or "The people win," or "They win," or something like that, saying the code had been defeated. Well, it hadn't been voted down yet. What the newspaper was trying to do was keep people from attending that event. We did an emergency phone blast to everybody on the phone list and told them it's not true, they didn't defeat the code, there's no vote, you won't find one, go to the event. And eventually, they had the code indefinitely suspended, which in politician speak is, it's over, it's done, it's dead. So how did they win? Number one, they went from access to power. They did not ask their representatives to vote against the new zoning code. They didn't show up to their representative's office before that meeting. They waited until that meeting to show up in force. Number two, from English to pressure. When Kodiak residents did show up, they were rolling deep. They had a lot of people with them. Three, from understanding to fear. They focused on one thing politicians care about, and that is their reputation. What politician on Kodiak Island could go shopping after he signed this new zoning code, with most of the island against him and most of the island that knew about it? Where could he go that he wouldn't be told by someone, "You forced my business to close at 8 o'clock"? Where could he go? He couldn't go anywhere. Reputation. Their political rap sheet looks like this. 1 state representative, 2 city councilors, and 3 borough assembly people. Those were all kicked out of office by people who had 6 months of political training. Well, 2 weeks of political training and 6 months to try it out. That's all it took. They used the swarm to protect their liberty. They didn't try to control their movement, even when their movement split, and they had 2 people who were both opposed but in different ways. They didn't try to control that. They didn't try to run each other over. They worked together to defeat this code. They worked together to use swarm intelligence. So how do you win? Access to power. English to pressure. Understanding to fear. Control to results. You need to educate yourself, number 1. You need to create a goal, number 2. You need to commit yourself, number 3. Define your market, number 4. Build coalitions with organizations, number 5. Prepare for confrontation and inspire a swarm. Lastly, who's seen the movie V for Vendetta? That's not how revolutions work. Hollywood revolutions are not revolutions. People don't all of a sudden swarm into the streets and take over their government. What did Occupy accomplish? Anyone ever heard of the Egyptian Spring? See the millions of people in the streets in Egypt? I believe they still have a dictator. And I believe this dictator holds show trials and is just about as bad as everybody else. Revolutions are first and foremost intellectual revolutions, and second, they are revolutions of one. They start with one person. They start with you deciding what can you do to advance the cause of liberty. Not waiting for all the lights to be green, not waiting for the people around you, not waiting for everybody to put on Guy Fawkes masks and march in the street. That's not how revolutions work. Revolutions start with one person. And the question you have to ask yourself, are you that person. I'm open for Q&A. Thank you very much.